Hey, welcome to this explainer. So if you've ever found yourself just staring at a blank screen, your heart absolutely pounding, desperately trying to figure out how to write a cover letter or a project proposal that doesn't just, well, sound desperate, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to transform that whole anxiety of pitching yourself into a structured, high-value partnership offer. And we aren't just giving you standard run-of-the-mill career advice here. Oh no. We're actually going to build an entirely new architecture for your writing. We'll be pulling some totally cross-disciplinary insights from combat psychology, enterprise sales, behavioral analysis, and even human resources. We are building the absolute ultimate high-status blueprint.
But first, let's just go ahead and acknowledge the elephant in the room. Pitching is terrifying, right? And it's terrifying because rejection hurts. There's this really funny, kind of viral internet joke about someone who actually went to a psychologist specifically to work through their deep-seated trauma of being rejected. And you know what the therapist does? They cancel the second session and then text them to say they literally can't work with the patient anymore. The internet's response to this was just brilliant. Shock therapy, skipped theory, straight to practice. It's hilarious for sure, but it also perfectly hits the nail on the head regarding that universal sting of rejection. Whether it's job hunting, freelancing, or just pitching an idea, it constantly triggers this deep fear we all have of being turned away. But what if we could just bypass that emotional trauma entirely? What if we could rely on a structural solution instead?
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's a quick schematic for the blueprint we're going to build together today, literally layer by layer. Number 1, we'll start with the foundation, which is entering condition yellow. Number 2, the structural frame, passing the adequacy filter. 3, the strategic core, mapping the business gap. And finally, number 4, the finishing polish, the code of non-neediness.
All right, starting off with section 1, entering condition yellow, or how to regulate your nervous system. Before you even think about typing a single word of your proposal or cover letter, we really need to talk about how your body is actually handling stress.
So this breakdown right here actually comes to us from combat psychology and high-performance research. It maps out exactly how our bodies respond to stress. On one end, you have condition white. This is when you're completely unprepared, vulnerable. Think like lounging on your couch watching TV. On the other extreme is condition black. This is full cognitive breakdown. Your heart rate is rocketing over 175 beats per minute. It's just total panic. Now, when we sit down to write a high-stakes pitch, that intense fear of rejection often pushes us right into condition red, or sometimes even black. But elite operators, I'm talking everyone from military snipers to professional basketball players stepping up for a crucial free throw, they intuitively know that they have to intentionally pull themselves back down into condition yellow. They take deep breaths, they consciously relax their shoulders, and they bring their heart rate down just to maintain their precision and fine motor skills.
The absolutely crucial point here is that you must enter condition yellow before you pitch. It's a state that's defined by relaxed alertness. In fact, researchers who study high-stakes venture capital pitches found that the most successful founders display exactly this specific trait: passion, comfortable enthusiasm, and what they actually call confidence without arrogance. Operating from condition yellow physically anchors your presence. It keeps you completely out of that needy, panic-driven writing style that inevitably happens when your sympathetic nervous system is just trapped in condition red. When you don't regulate that stress, well, it physically shows. Take the flash-frozen posture from behavioral analysis, for example. It's when a person sits totally rigid, basically like they're strapped into an ejector seat. It displays extreme limbic discomfort. And the crazy thing is, when you feel like this physically, it absolutely leaks into your writing. Your proposals suddenly become defensive, overly wordy, and honestly, they just kind of reek of desperation. Getting yourself into condition yellow stops that leak right at the source.
Moving right along to section 2. Passing the adequacy filter. We need to clear that initial 10-second hurdle. So, now that your nervous system is nicely regulated, we've got to get past the reviewer's very first, immediate evaluation. Human resources professionals call this the adequacy filter. Now, you're not going to win the job right here, but you will avoid being instantly tossed into the trash bin. This 10-second rule applies whether someone is skimming your LinkedIn bio or glancing at the opening paragraph of your cover letter. Step 1. Specifically name the role and the company. Step 2. Immediately state the educational or professional background that makes you a baseline match. Step 3. Name the specific tools they asked for in the listing. For example, you might write something like, "I'm applying for the data analyst role. I studied advanced mathematics at university, and I have direct experience building propensity models using Tableau." Boom. Done. 10 seconds. Filter passed. You've officially proven you belong in the room.
Which brings us to section 3. Mapping the business gap. So, with the adequacy filter totally cleared, we can now shift our focus to the real, persuasive core of your proposal. For this, we're borrowing some absolutely brilliant insights from the world of enterprise gap selling. You see, every single successful pitch relies on a surprisingly simple mathematical equation. Future state minus current state equals the gap. Your client or your prospective employer currently exists in a current state that is filled with a very specific pain or problem. But they also have a future state in mind, a desired outcome, some kind of relief or pleasure they really want to reach. The gap is the specific distance that your pitch actually needs to bridge. If you don't fully understand their specific future state, you literally cannot calculate the value of what you're offering to them.
So here's the real game changer, the crucial distinction you need to remember. Amateurs pitch solutions to technical problems, but professionals pitch to unique business problems. Let's say a company's database is running really slow. Okay, that's a technical problem, but the business problem might be that the slow database is actually causing their top sales reps to quit out of sheer frustration, and that is costing the company millions of dollars. No two prospects have the exact same business problem. When your cover letter proves that you actually understand their unique business gap, you instantly stop being just another face in the applicant pile, and you become an incredibly valuable problem solver.
All right, Section 4, the Code of Non-Neediness. It's time to talk about high-status communication. We've built our calm foundation, we've got our structural gap mapped out, now we apply that final linguistic polish.
Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is how clearly it defines status simply through the way we communicate. Neediness, unfortunately, infiltrates all sorts of behaviors. A needy writer will try to argue with a client's constraints, or they'll totally over-explain themselves just trying to seek some kind of validation. They fill their writing with fluff and filler words. High-status language, on the other hand, is entirely different. It relies on respectful detachment and always values quality over quantity. Being genuinely non-needy means you deeply respect yourself and you also deeply respect the other person's time and position. You don't need to beg, and you certainly don't need to argue.
Just look at this phenomenal phrasing, which is actually adapted from a masterclass on how to handle social rejection with absolute grace. Imagine a client pushes back on your proposal, or they say they've chosen another direction. A desperate amateur might try to argue or change their mind, but a high-status professional, they write, "I'm not here to dispute your own decision. It doesn't have to be challenging for us in any negative sense." Notice the emphasis there on your own decision. It completely removes the neediness from the equation. It demonstrates the ultimate level of professional detachment, showing that you are in total control of the emotional tone and that you heavily value your own time.
When you communicate like that, it creates a real-world physical sense of presence and synchrony. Imagine two professionals completely engaged, relaxed, and present in a meeting. When you proactively strip out all that needy language, the over-explanation, and the desperation from your proposals, you are essentially creating the written equivalent of that exact comfortable interaction. You create a true psychological synchrony between you and the reader. They actually feel safe doing business with you, specifically because it is abundantly clear that you don't need them to survive.
And that brings us to Section 5. The blueprint is complete. Let's quickly review this winning architecture and bring all of these distinct disciplines together into one final picture.
All right, here's your complete top-to-bottom architecture for literally any high-stakes written communication. Foundationally, you must regulate your nervous system. Always start in condition yellow. Structurally, you've got to hit those hard facts immediately to pass the adequacy filter in 10 seconds flat. Strategically, you want to spend the bulk of your text mapping out their unique business gap, moving them from current pain to future pleasure. And finally, for the polish, you edit ruthlessly. Strip out all the fillers, the over-explanations, and any hint of needy language. You are no longer an amateur begging for a job, okay? You are an elite professional offering a high-value partnership.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for today. Honestly, right after this, I want you to open up the very last cover letter or pitch proposal you sent. Read it back to yourself and ask this honestly. Do your current proposals read like a desperate plea or an elite partnership offer? The blueprint is fully in your hands now. It is time to build. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.